You're watching Kenosha Community Television.
Welcome to Gateway Connection, the program that offers an inside look at the people, programs, and efforts of Gateway Technical College to connect with the communities, people, and industry it serves. Gateway Connection.
Hello and welcome to Gateway Connection. I'm Don Marabella, and today we're talking to Anthony First, who's the Veteran Support Specialist and Advisor to the Student Veterans of America Club at Gateway Technical College. Anthony, thank you so much for coming on the show and
thanks for
talking
having
to
me.
us. Can you tell us a little about some of the services you provide to our student veterans?
The services that we provide, which is under the tent of the Learning Success Department down in the student support area.
Mm-hmm.
The services that we provide to our student is one-on-one case management.
Wow.
We also kind of speak with the student to figure out if they're going to have troubles in any areas in their classes. So we want to make sure that we get them to the help that they need.
Mm-hmm.
We've come up with a journey book for each one of our students so that they can go through the process of meeting each individual that provides services under student support. So they will go through that journey book and sit down and give the individuals an opportunity to pitch their program, and if that's something that they're interested in, then they sign them up at that point.
Oh wow, that sounds really neat. Can you tell us, expand a little bit more on the case management that's done for our student veterans?
Some of our veterans come in with some areas of concern, and we want to address those concerns without putting the veteran or the individual, the spouse, or the dependent on the spot. We ask them the question, where do they feel they're going to have the most difficulty in their classroom curriculum? And during that period of time, we want to address that before it becomes an issue.
What about the journey book? What's that?
The journey book is given to each student who comes through our student support program, and that journey book takes them to our disability support specialist. It also takes them to our multicultural area. It also takes them, of course, the veterans a portion of it, and it also takes them to our tutoring and the other services that Gateway provide for all students. But we kind of handhold give that wraparound service to our veteran component.
So it sounds like the journey book really introduces the student veteran to all the different services that are available and for them to utilize.
It does, and it puts a face to a program. So when you see those individuals walking the hallways, then you can say, oh, I'll go and tap her on the shoulder and ask her a question. So it's a more hand-holding, wraparound service that we offer, and we're more than happy to do that for every student that comes in a Gateway.
Well, that's wonderful. I think I like that. What are the differences between the services you provide to our vets and the club membership?
Each one of the individuals and that's a member of our Veterans Club, and they've coined the name of the 444th, being that our club number is 444. So they call it the 444th, and each one of those students have been through my office. I have pitched the program about the Veterans Club, who is under the Student Veterans of America. And it gives them an opportunity to exercise the education that they're getting at Gateway. And we've done that last year. Our veterans were able to stand up in front of the board of directors and the president of the school and do what they call the State of the Chapter address. And that right there is just letting our top officials here at Gateway hear the concerns that they have, within the college.
Oh wow, that sounds just wonderful. What sorts of activities does the club engage in?
They do a lot of, we're trying to get them more engaged into doing the parades. And get involved in the Veterans Parade up in Milwaukee and the 4th of July parade that we would have in here in Kenosha, as well as in Racine. They do a lot of fundraising to generate revenue for trips that they would take, and they do some a little bit of volunteer work.
Oh,
so
really?
the more we
nice.
find, the more individuals we find, or the more services we find that will accept volunteers, then we send that to the club, and then they vote and decide on whether or not there's something that they would want to get involved in.
What are some of the volunteer opportunities that they've had within the club?
Okay, there were a few. We have our veterans organization out in Racine. The veterans, it's the Veterans Resource of Wisconsin, where this organization allows individuals to come in if they're short on furniture, food, and things like that. They will allow them to come in as long as they can show proof that they are a veteran. They can come in and pick out anything they want out of this particular warehouse.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
And the organization delivers it, sets it up for free at no charge.
Fabulous. That's wonderful. What branches of the armed forces are represented in the club?
We represent all branches, Navy, Army, Air Force, Reserves, Coast Guard, and any individual who's a student at Gateway who's affiliated with one of those branches of service are more than welcome. And we also make room for our spouses and dependents as club members. There is no fee. There's no fee for that to be a member of the club. The only thing we ask you to do is give us a little bit of your time and a little bit of your patriotism and come on, and we're going to rock this thing.
From what conflicts or wars are the veterans from?
We have, there's from Vietnam, it's the one that I see very rarely, but a couple years ago we had a few Vietnam veterans who were students at Gateway. But we have our Iraqi veterans and we have our Afghanistan veterans. And more veterans are coming out of the theater back into the education, and what we want to do is just make sure that we're there to help them transition back into some sort of normalcy.
Yes, I see. And it sounds like there's a variety, a range of ages as well of members in the club.
Yeah, it is. I think the most senior veteran that I've seen was in his 70s.
Really?
But he wanted to utilize his education benefits and get back into the mainstream. He was tired of sitting at home.
Wow, that's wonderful. Can you show us, you have a special medallion?
I do.
And what is this medallion, and how did it come about? It
is a challenge coin, and if you look up the history of the military challenge coin, it's something that we kind of bestow on individuals who support our veterans program at Gateway Technical College, whether it be a veteran or a non-veteran faculty member, a staff member. And what we do is present this to them. And I want to hand you this right here. And this coin was actually...
Can we get a close-up of this?
The coin was actually designed by one of our graphic design students.
Oh, how cool.
And we presented the challenge to her instructor, which also presented the challenge to students in the classroom. And the young lady took up on the challenge, and it was approved by Gateway Technical College, and we had it made by another veterans organization out of New Jersey. So we're proud of it, and we can't wait to, we're going to be handing some of these coins out here in an upcoming event.
And I'm just going to read what it says on the Rudy Red Hawk side. It says, Student Veterans of America, Coast Guard, Marines, Navy, Army, the lighting, Air Force, and on the other side, It says integrity, personal, courage, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor. That is beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we really think it is as well. The student that designed this coin, she's already got the first one, so she's the recipient of the first one, fresh off the press.
Wow, that is so special. Is that for each of the members then?
This coin has to be earned. It
Okay.
is not a coin that's just freely given out. It is something that has to be earned, and that is based on the individual or the group's ability to support veterans programs and support the programs that Gateway has set up for our veterans, and any support that they would do outside of Gateway in the community.
So it's a very special
It is a
coin.
special coin.
It's
Yes.
beautiful. Can you tell me, in your own words, why you think this club is so unique and helpful to our veterans?
Well, it keeps them in the mainstream.
Yes.
It keeps the camaraderie that our veterans have. They're able to escape from the normal day-to-day classroom things that go on within a college. They have their own veterans lounge, which was so graciously put together by one of our deans, Ray Kokori, and blessed by the upper management, Brian Albrecht, and the board of directors and those individuals. So we're very happy to have that. Our student veterans and their families are happy to be able to find a quiet space. Some of our veterans need that quiet space to go in and sit back and relax, and maybe go in and do their homework in that environment.
Isn't that wonderful? Can you tell us about the Veterans Honors events that's coming up in November?
Yes, November 8th, we're going to have our Veterans Honors event. This is our second annual. It will be held at the Madrigano Conference Center, right there on the Kenosha campus. At the Veterans Honors event, it gives us an opportunity to recognize the individuals that I spoke of before, our faculty, our staff, our veterans, and our Gateway students, our Red Hawk students. So it allows us to as I walk around and I see projects being done in the name of veteran support, then I get back with my boss and discuss that and go over that with her, saying this is what I've seen and I would really love to award them at the Veterans Honors event. Another thing that we do at our Veterans Honors event, we name 3 Veterans of the Year, one for each major campus, one for the Kenosha, one for Racine, and one for Elkhorn. And those individuals have their own parking spot, so they have their own parking spot for 1 year.
That is so valuable.
It is.
That is
especially
so
during the
nice.
winter.
Now I know in our last minute, can you tell us about what it means? I know Gateway is a veteran-friendly school.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to someone who's a veteran, who's thinking about going to a school? What does that mean when it's designated a veteran-friendly school?
Veteran-friendly school designate that school as an educational entity that supports their veterans fully. They have an open mind. They listen to the veterans' concerns. And if possible, they try to meet the concerns of our veteran students and their families. Veterans, on the other hand, we don't want to be singled out. If the program is there or if the benefit is there, they will take it, and they're very appreciative of it. And I've gotten comments on that as well. But to fly the flag of a veteran-friendly school, there are certain criteria that you must meet, and I've seen the list. But my number goes up the chain of command. It goes to my boss. She submits them up to her boss, and it gets up to the individual who submits that information to the company or to the individuals who will make the determination that you do meet the veteran-friendly criteria.
That's wonderful. How does a veteran go about joining the club?
There's no charge to be a member of the club. All you need to do is to contact the president of the Veterans Club, and this year's president is Juan Salazar.
Okay.
Juan Salazar,
Juan Salazar.
and I believe he's bouncing back between Racine campus and Kenosha campus.
Okay.
So if they're out there to, if they want to be a member, or they can come to me or any member of the club. Ask anyone on any campus, and that will lead you back to either myself, or it would actually lead you to the president of the Veterans Club.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anthony, for coming on the show today.
It's my pleasure.
We've been talking to Anthony First. He's our Veteran Support Specialist at Gateway Technical College. Please stay tuned for more with Jayne Herring.
And welcome back to Gateway Connections. I'm Jayne Herring, the Marketing Director for Gateway, and would like to welcome Don Zakutansky. Did I get it right this
Absolutely
time?
perfect.
All right. And Dr. Zach, right?
Correct.
That's what your students call you. And Don is an instructor of anatomy and physiology within the General Sciences program, General Studies area, and the science area of that, correct?
Correct.
And what we're going to be talking about today is a little bit about what General Studies means, because I think a lot of people forget about that with Gateway Technical College. So I do want to make sure we cover that, and to then talk about the Provost Honors Program. And you have been very active in getting your students this extra great opportunity. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And you're also an award-winning instructor. I know I have seen that was a couple of years ago that you were chosen for the President's Excellence Award in Teaching, and I think we're going to find out why that is today because of how you get your students so involved. So a little extra congratulations.
Thank you very much for that.
So General Studies at Gateway Technical College. I know we've talked to Kathy Nordhaus, the dean, in the past. There's 4 areas.
Yes, we have social science, the science, natural sciences, mathematics, and communications.
And that is really organized. It's not a standalone. These are programs you can take. You can't get a degree in the natural sciences.
Right.
So how does that integrate with everything else?
So general education is an area, it's called general because many programs would see the benefit of having a communications course in interpersonal communications or speech, depending on what program would be utilizing that. In the sciences, we have anywhere from surgical techs and nurses taking some of our anatomy and physiology classes to culinary arts interested in microbiology, and even our chemistry classes are taken by fire science students.
And I think just hearing that, it all makes really good sense that you would have to have that. And I think it sometimes comes as a surprise to certain students or just the general public that, oh, I thought you did all hands-on learning. But you kind of do in your general studies courses as well, don't you?
Absolutely. Most, if not all, of our science classes have a laboratory component where we do lab experiments, where students don't necessarily know the outcome, but they learn about how the body behaves or how chemicals behave or how physical materials behave under certain conditions. And so there's some experiential learning that happens even in the general studies areas.
Well, and talking about nursing and anatomy and physiology, in a way it's kind of like a duh. Yeah, it'd be really good if our nurses and our doctors all knew about anatomy and physiology, but can you kind of explain kind of the breadth of what you cover in the courses?
Sure. Well, I'll start with chemistry. Chemistry, we cover everything from atomic structure, the subatomic particles. So that has an interest to people interested in physics later, or how the body ultimately gets put together and functions. But it's a general enough course that people like in fire science, like I mentioned, see utility in that particular course as to how they're going to fight particular fires depending on what the agent is that caused the fire in the first place, or what chemical fire extinguisher they have to put the fire out. So there's some applications to multiple programs in chemistry. But chemistry usually builds into another course. Either that's biology or anatomy and physiology. And in anatomy and physiology, we have a two-semester sequence. In the general anatomy and physiology, we learn about all the parts of the body, the structures. But then that's coupled with advanced physiology, where students learn how the body works, how do all these pieces fit together, and how does one organ system have an impact on another organ system that maybe you wouldn't see a direct connection with. And so when we look at some of our experiments, we see if you manipulate one variable in the body, how does that impact something elsewhere? And then often students go beyond our A and P sequence into microbiology, where we look at microbes, bacteria, and parasites and viruses that might have an impact on human health, but in other areas like culinary sciences, how it might cause food spoilage, or maybe in some cases cause beer to ferment or wine. So there's upside to those microbes. So again, different programs see different applications to our general
that's really
sciences.
Interesting. And what's the average size of your anatomy physiology classes?
Most of our classes are capped at 24 students. So it's a small class size, and even within that, the reason is we like our laboratories to be intimate, where students can work in small groups, but the instructor can still touch on all the groups and make sure that they're getting the experiential learning that they're supposed to from the class.
And I would imagine, from what I can remember, that's rather different from a four-year university where those courses tend to be pretty humongous.
My anatomy class had 750 people at a Big Ten university, but by the end of the semester it was 300. So there's certainly some upside to having small class sizes.
Well, and being able to work with the students, and I hear that, in my position as marketing director, we do a lot of testimonials of students, and over again, it's knowing that they're not just a number and that they have somebody right there who can answer their questions. And that also enables them to really grow in whatever they're studying. And I think that's kind of where the Provost Honors Program comes in, is it allows students who have been able to get that basic knowledge that they need to have for the class and then want to do something more and learn more. And tell me a little bit about the Honors Program in general.
Well, the Honors Program was started by our Provost, Zena Haywood. I was fortunate enough to be put in one of the first proposals the first semester it was offered, and have that proposal approved. So I'm one of the inaugural faculty members at Gateway that has had the pleasure of having a student and to be able to be mentored in learning some things that we wouldn't learn just out of the book in the natural course of a semester. So I should step back a little bit, that the reason for this was Gateway has lots of opportunities for students who may be not as adequately prepared as they would like to be in our classes to be boosted up. We have a very strong academic support center. We have tutors. We even have a tutoring program where the tutors come to the science center to meet with the students. So there's lots of opportunities to boost students up academically, but we had little for the students that were already at a high academic standard. And so this Provost Honors Program was something to help those students, to boost them even up a little bit. So it's a program where a student needs to have a certain GPA cumulative in their program and be performing well in the class. And if they choose, it's completely voluntary, and their interests mesh with the instructor's interests, that they can do an advanced project. So it's something that's not extra credit. It's not something that is mandatory, but it's something that is expected to be done on the student's own time, that they can work out times to work. So it's in addition to regular coursework.
Yeah, it's not like extra credit. It's more than extra credit, correct?
Absolutely.
They learn something new. Maybe you can give me some examples of some of the projects students have done for you within your class, but separate.
Yeah, so, and I'll try to share with you the diversity of the very first semester we offered honors credit. In my particular class, a student was interested in how humans deposit body fat related to stress. And so she did a survey and did some tape measurements of students in the class that volunteered. They knew they were volunteering for this experiment. And they just filled out a few question survey about their stress level, about their dietary habits, did they eat out frequently, and then looked at where body fat was deposited. And she found there was a correlation between how much stress somebody perceived to have and then where they carried their body fat, whether they were apple-shaped or pear-shaped. And so that was a nice little contribution to the scientific literature. At the very same time, Steve Whitmoyer in our civil engineering program, he had a student working on aggregates in concrete material and their stresses during different applications for roads or bridges. And I just thought that was fascinating. So far out of my realm of expertise, but still adding to the scientific literature and something that his students wouldn't learn otherwise.
And a totally different application of the word stress.
Indeed, indeed.
No, I mean, that is fascinating, and I think you should emphasize the point because it, to be honest, hadn't really stuck in my head previously until we talked before the taping, and that's, it isn't somebody going to existing research and pulling that existing research together. They're starting from ground zero.
So that is one application that an instructor could choose to do, is compile what exists out there into one cumulative form. And so an English professor may ask, you know, look in this area of compositions to see if there's some theme. So that's an option, but I like to do novel research myself. Coming out of a university, it's something that I really enjoyed. And although it's not part of my regular duties at Gateway, it's nice to be able to expose students to that. So I like to do brand new novel research. This semester, we've got a student that learned in advanced A&P that there's an enzyme in our saliva that nobody knows what it does, and she's got some ideas. We're going to explore those.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. You came from a four-year university. You personally kind of miss the research, but people don't ordinarily think of a technical college. You know, we're learning skills for their jobs. This is something people don't think about when they think of Gateway. Yet you're giving students that opportunity. Why is that good?
Well, they may find something that they really enjoy doing. Some absolutely love this, and some they realize this is something that it was nice to try once, but it's not in my DNA, so to speak. But we have several students that transfer on to four-year schools where having that experience in a laboratory that's unique to other students transferring in is a great experience.
And I think that is a good point. I do hear from some of my cohorts in admissions at the four-year universities that accept our students, that they just love getting Gateway students because by the time they see them, they're darn good students. They've learned well, they've had great tutelage from Gateway instructors, they've had new experiences in the one-on-one-ness, so by the time they get to the four-year universities, they're kind of ready to rock.
Yeah, and even if a student chooses to go right into a clinical track or into a technical job, the honors program allows them to look at problems in a brand new way. So they see things from a different perspective that they wouldn't get by reading out of a textbook.
Good point. Well, thank you for joining us today. That was a very quick discussion, but I learned a lot. Thank you.
My pleasure. We've
been talking with Dr. I knew I would mess this up. We have been talking with Dr. Don Zakutansky, who is an instructor of anatomy and physiology, and also one of the inaugural instructors involved in our Provost Honors Program. And I'd like to thank you for joining us today on Gateway Connections.